Hello everyone, and welcome to my podcast, What the Mind Thinks. Today we will be talking about a kind of interesting topic. I think I've been focusing on it a lot during my college career, especially because of the jobs that I've been doing and having the opportunities to do, especially volunteering and just, dabbling in a lot of different classes. And I think that this will definitely be kind of an interesting topic to discuss. So our topic today is going to be adolescent mental health and what we can do in their school age years, especially their primary school age, kind of what we can do to help them achieve emotional maturity and help them mostly succeed with their emotions, especially for when they're older, and kind of help them cope with what they need to cope with, even if it's not necessarily for mental health. I'm not saying it's for a mental illness or anything like that. It's mostly just support for emotions or whatever they could be going through. So I think this is a big topic that needs to be discussed, and I am excited to discuss it. So let's get on with it. So I just want to get started by saying a big reason why I wanted to do this topic is especially just because of what I've been experiencing in college, and even before college. In high school, my first job was a behavior therapy assistant, working with special needs kids in schools. So that was really important to me, and I think I learned a lot from that. So, and I think that kind of developed into what I really wanted to do in college. But even now, I never thought I'd be working honestly with kids again, just because it was so difficult in high school. But now I've been having some great opportunities working with kids and stuff like that, different kinds of kids, special needs kids and stuff like that. Not even just that, just even younger kids. Actually, I've been working with a lot of toddlers and trying to help them develop if they have developmental issues for whatever reason. The spectrum is very broad. But I've noticed actually a lot of any school age kids that I've been working with, it's just been kind of the same routine that I've been seeing, is that they've been having issues talking about their emotions, and it's not even that. They don't even know that they need to talk about their emotions. When we talk about emotions, when we think about when we were kids, we never talked about emotions. Like when we were in school, we didn't really have that outlet. We had counselors in school, but it was mostly for school related things. And if there was something more intense and more serious, then that was something that we had to deal with. So that was just like a big thing. And I feel like, especially with younger kids, it's kind of seen as taboo to talk about any kind of mental health or emotions, any kind of, any feelings that they're having, just because they're so young. I feel like a lot of people don't really understand that kids really do feel just as strong as emotions as everybody else, and it's even more confusing to them because they don't know how to really express that. When I work with the kids that I work with, it's like we have to go through this whole stage of explaining what emotions are even called. All they know is happy or sad or mad. Well, there's a lot more than that, and I think that a really big issue that they get frustrated with is they get confused because there is more emotions than that, and they just don't know that, especially with their parents. It's kind of a harder thing to discuss, especially, if parents aren't around a lot, or, a lot of families, they really don't talk about emotions. So that's kind of a really big factor into that. So I think that's a really big thing that, we all grew up with. Like, that was a big thing. Like, we really didn't talk about emotions. So now we're all seeing this big influx in people not really knowing how to deal with relationships or deal with even like the smallest bits of, stress or any kind of emotional like happenings, because we're missing that emotional maturity. And, it's not even only just like when we're older, we see these issues when we're still in school. Like, we all remember like kids having like these issues. And, I feel like ADHD was a big thing. Like, even now, ADHD is a big thing, but ADHD was a really big thing. Like, when I was in school, like, kids, like, you knew when a kid had ADHD, and, it was kind of seen as this thing that was like a big deal because we didn't even know how to react to it. Like, we never learned about it, and we never learned about these different emotions, about how kids could be stressed. And so we didn't understand when a kid would lash out or be angry because they were so stressed and whatever. And, and we, like, schools didn't really provide the tools necessary for anybody to really understand. Yes, they would try to explain it, but in a way that was appropriate, I guess, and in the curriculum that was allotted for those schools. But I mean, that's kind of like, it's a lot of different issues. I mean, it could be like just the school's lack of knowledge, or it could be even lack of finances. It could be a lot of different things that they don't want that in the curriculum. A lot of different school districts don't really like offer that just because of their beliefs, which is understandable. But I do think it needs to be talked about, and it's an issue that needs to be solved. But not even only in schools. I mean, in families, I feel like even with that, it's really hard for kids to understand emotions, like I said, because like a lot of families don't talk about emotions. And mental health is a very like hush hush thing for a lot of cultures. So it's just one of those things that if there was a tool, or if there was resources for younger adolescents to learn these things and understand their emotions and talk through what they really need to talk through, that kids don't necessarily get the opportunity to do so, I think that would be something that would be super beneficial, not only for them at that moment, but like it would carry on into adulthood. It would cause emotional maturity and strong relationships, just in general, family or spouses, friendships, things like that. They'd be able to handle stressful situations and life situations, and these outbursts of that we see today, especially they're so extreme now. I feel like a lot of this would be fixed, and obviously, and I'm not going to be too political because I don't want to do that, but it's just one of those things that mental health plays a really big toll, and I feel like a lot of that starts in younger ages. So kind of the next kind of point that I want to touch on is how we can fix that. And I feel like that's a big thing that we do need to talk about. And I feel like the biggest thing that we should discuss is how we can fix these in school, like how we can include these things and topics and stuff like that in school. And I think one of the biggest things would be adding not only, I would say, counselors, because yes, counselors do help in extreme situations and stuff like that, but also I think that we should have some type of therapist or psychologist, a person, an adult that kids could come to. And it's not even just like, oh, like maybe every once in a while they come to, like they should be having like weekly or monthly meetings to kind of discuss these things. And that's just at the beginning of it. Like, I also believe that there should be a class or something. Like, there should be topics around these things, I started with the kids that I work with, we started doing like the emotions wheel where they learn about the different emotions, and they pick the emotions on the wheels and stuff like that. And we learn breathing techniques and things like that, like the small things. And we learn how to talk to each other and what, like, to explain what's making us mad and whatever, and there should be classes, or there should be lessons taught in school regularly about how to keep this regulated, and like just to make this, to normalize it, I would say, because it does affect so many kids. And it's not even like I said, I'm not even talking about just mental illness. Not every kid has a mental illness. It's mostly would hit adulthood, or young adulthood, especially teenagers. But I think that just talking about emotions and talking about how to, especially like regulate stress, talk about anger, other things that I've seen with children, jealousy, and not even like simple things like that. A lot of kids, they suffer with neglect, even in the most minute aspects. A lot of parents, both parents work now, and full time, and especially like middle lower class families, they don't get that ability to have that structure to be around their kid all the time. So they feel the abandonment and they feel the neglect that their parents don't want them to feel, but in reality they do. So I feel as though, like, if we do require or even regulate these types of things, like the counseling sessions and the lessons, the classes, whatever schools want to implement, and kind of research, I feel like that it would help a lot with every student. And obviously, like, my next point is the concern of if the jobs would be filled. And I think that they probably would, if you think about it, because these are school jobs, working for the counties, and I think that this would be a good opportunity for a lot of behavior science graduates or psychology graduates, any kind of graduate in that field, to have their first career experience, especially involved with kids, even like social working. I feel like that would be a big opportunity. They get one-on-one with the kids, they get involved, they have this experience that, like, that every person going into that career field should have. And more so, there's so many different kinds of therapies that could be offered from these different types of graduates and the different people that'll be working with these students. There's so many, art therapies and any kind of behavior therapies that need to be done, music therapy, and even just regular counseling therapy, talk therapy, there's a lot of different ways that can help kids be just more evolved and more aware of their emotions, like they should, And also, I think one last way kind of that we can help in this aspect is getting parents involved. I think that's one of the biggest things that can kind of encourage the students to be excited about this happening in schools. Kids are scared to talk about their emotions. They don't really know how to do that. So I think the biggest way that they could do that is getting parents involved. Whether that be having meetings with parents, or even sending home flyers, or even having classes for the parents as well, whether that be in person or online. There's a lot of online, very educational things that schools could get involved in, which I mean are awesome to kind of, let both the parent and the child interact about this whole idea of, learning how to talk about their emotion. But all in all, I think, the biggest step to take is for schools to get involved. I think, really my last point about all of this is why we want to do this, why this is such a big issue, why schools should get involved. I mean, if you think about it, primary school is required in the United States. So if you think about it, I mean, if they have this in their curriculum and they add this to their budget, then this could definitely help kids kind of become emotionally independent and have that maturity for when they are adults and they can, regulate their feelings and they can express how they want to feel. We want, our future children to have stable relationships. We have one of the worst divorce rates in America in history right now, 50%, I believe more at this point, and a big part of that is because a lot of people aren't emotionally mature. They're not ready for any type of relationship. They don't know how to be in a relationship because they didn't talk about emotions in their families, or they didn't learn how to express their feelings or trust, or not be jealous. So they're having these issues now in relationships that it just shouldn't happen. It shouldn't have happened, and that's something that needs to be worked on, which is why I really do believe that this should be added to schools and stuff like that. So that does kind of bring me to my conclusion, and just kind of want to reiterate the importance of why we kind of want this. I mean, we all kind of feel like relate in some aspect to how we kind of suffered at some point when we were children because we didn't know how to regulate our feelings, and we all suffer in some aspect because we didn't learn how to react in certain ways to certain things. But I feel like if we add, lessons in schools, if we add counseling, real counseling with, not necessarily, I don't even want to necessarily say therapists, they have to be doctors. We have counselors in schools that don't have a doctorate degree, and I feel like they would be perfectly capable with this. But I just think that there should be, people trained and people giving lessons to children and talking about these things, having these regular sessions with children to make sure that they're just not even okay, obviously making sure they're okay, but also just making sure that they understand that they can talk about their emotions, and just in general, like I've said many times before, that they just know how to feel their emotions. That's the biggest issue. We see with kids today, and they get so angry because they don't understand how to feel their emotions. They don't understand their emotions. They don't know what certain feelings even are, and they don't know why they're feeling them. So it's just this whole, cycle of frustration, and that's the biggest thing. I feel like a lot of outbursts in school are caused by, and we're having this influx of behavior issues, and especially after primary schools, once they go to middle or junior high, that's where we see the biggest increase in behavior issues. And then obviously once we get to high school, some things do change. We kind of, puberty hits, we kind of mature at some point, but at the same time, we still don't see that emotional maturity. So we still kind of get this decline in how we react to things. So I think that, just a lot of this would help. And I think that schools should get involved. And I think that's one of the first things that should be happening is schools getting involved in the primary age of adolescent kids. Like, that's just what should be happening. But that really comes to the end of my podcast. Thank you for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed and got a little bit of insight. I do really care about this issue. I do think that this should be happening, and I really want to work kind of on this throughout my college career, and hopefully once I graduate, I kind of, work towards that. So, once again, thank you for listening to my podcast, and I will see you guys later. Bye.